What's going on now, George?
Well, I called you back around over here, Cisco Cinema. Little, what's up? Yeah, good to see you again.
Just say you miss me.
But I do miss you so much. Anyways, we got this axle clearance situation going on again, and I just want to go over it yet again, why I preach day in and day out that there's not enough axle clearance. I'm going to show it yet again, and as I've said before, this is an issue that I see at some 10K axles, depending on how they did the hangers and the frames and stuff, but definitely 8K and lower. This is double I springs, and this is also, let me start out with this and make sure this is clear, underslung axles, okay? The axles that have the springs underneath. Please don't talk about how, like, all you gotta do is put the axles to the other side of it. This is from the factory, how it comes. This is an 8,000 pound setup. I mean, they call them 10K. But same thing. It's still the same combo of everything, okay? So what we're looking at here, all this stuff is wore out. It's the old stuff, but I did add in a 1-inch piece up here to represent, if we were to get this here, this represents this blocker, so we're not cheating any space when we go through all this, okay? If we look here, and I tell everybody, measure. Now, I have the jacks here to take the slack out of the suspension. The weight of the trailer is not factored on it because I have it on the lift, so I don't want to pick it up off the air. So it's actually less than this. This is best case scenario you could possibly be in the air with just the slack taken out. If we look here, you're under 2 inches from the top of the U-bolt to the bottom of the frame. Now, as you can see, it's been hitting. It hit so bad on the other side that it flat spotted the top of the axle and bent the axle. So I'm waiting for a new axle. But my whole point is the axle clearance already right off the rip is not enough. And I'm going to show you that too. So if we look here, you just do a basic Google search, okay? If you do a basic Google search, it tells you standard trailer spring compression deflection is about 1.5 inches, okay? When loaded, the maximum capacity, the total typical trailer suspension allows roughly 3 to 4 inches of travel, okay? So I've been generous when I say I want 2.5 to 3 inches. And then people have been talking about how, oh, the equalizers are great because they're too lazy to haul the trailer level. This is under ideal conditions with the trailer level, and the trailer is not even loaded yet, and we're still don't have enough axle clearance. So now what I'm going to go through is I'm going to go through and I'm going to cycle it because you can see what happens. The equalizer rocks and it hits the frame. All right, so now I'll go through and I'll cycle that. All right, we'll go a little bit on this one. Okay, now this is max travel. We're bottomed out on the frame here. You can see the equalizer has hit so much, it's actually dented in. The top of the equalizer from hitting the frame is starting to notch out the frame. So this is from towing the trailer. As you can see, this side's notched out and smashed in pretty good, and this side's not so bad. So this tells me that this customer tows this trailer primarily with the nose too far high up in the front, which is why the back axle ended up bent, which is why this is beat out even further. Getting back to the original point, our travel is less than 1 inch now. From the top of the U-bolt to the bottom of the frame, we have less than 1 inch to travel. This is not even the load of the trailer. This is just the flex in the suspension. So everybody's talking about how the equalizer is transferring loads from one to the other and so on and so forth. None of that matters at the end of the day. And the point I'm attempting to make is there's not enough axle travel, period. Okay, so what I've been addressing and what I've been talking about and how I've been fixing this problem is there's 2 ways, and now I figured out 3 ways. The first way, the proper way, is from the manufacturers. Some of them do it. Most of them do it because they're on deck over trailers and they need the tire clearance before so it doesn't hit the deck. So you'll see them shim these hangers down. Now, I think they make some hangers that are a little bit taller. I'm not sure, but they're usually not part of the kit, but you can get them. But this is generally speaking the go-to hanger setup. So some manufacturers will shim this hanger down, but they're attempting to get the tire clearance, and then they'll put the tube all the way across. So either way, you still have the same geometry problem. You still have the same axle clearance problem. My next solution for this problem has been to cut the center hanger off, build a subframe that's wider than the hanger, that has crossbars built into it, and then shim just this equalizer down. And what that does is it stops the travel of the equalizer, and it also pushes the axle down just in the middle, which gives me my axle clearance. So when this locks out in this nature, I still have 3 inches left over here. So that's the second way. Now, The third way in which I go to the tinfoil hat stuff and so on and so forth is, about corporations attempting to make money. They know, every one of them know that this is a problem in the industry. This is a problem on a lot of trailers. But here's the deal. You're making money selling axles, selling hangers that get beat out all the time. I mean, this is all just a bent piece of sheet metal. All this pressure is riding on. That's a standard equalizer replacement. Now there's different equalizers. Some have a little heavier, but I'm talking from 8,000 pound axles and down. This is the third way that you can fix it. Okay, so I built this equalizer. And if you look at them side by side, okay, if you look at the center as a reference point, what I've done is I've pushed the springs down. Okay, so this is where the slipper rides. This is where the rear spring rides. And I'm going to tell you why. I started doing this back in 2008, 2010. I kind of stopped. And the reason being is because they lasted a lot longer and everything. So this is 3/16 material. This is quarter material. Some of these are quarter. Either way, these wear out fast, and once they wear out, there's no change in this stuff. It's kind of a pain. I've done it before, but it's a pain. Okay, so the way I build these is it gives me the proper geometry that I need and replaceable or repairable, right? So I don't weld the bottoms because this is sleeved all the way through the plates. So the pressure is going on the plates either way, so I just weld the tops. So it's easy for me to grind this weld out, punch this tube out, put a new tube in it, re-weld it. That's a rebuildable application. This is an 1.5-inch solid rod. First of all, it's going to take forever to wear this out. Second of all, once it does wear out, it's just as easy to grind this weld out, punch this solid rod out, put a new solid rod in, put it back together. I don't really worry about this too much because in a lot of these, most of these, there's a couple that have exceptions, but most of these, if we look at this over here, most of these bigger slippers, once you get up into the bigger slippers, they have rubber bushings in them, okay? That rubber bushing is going to take the impact before this hole gets beat out. So that's why I say this is a rebuildable equalizer. It's going to last before you even have to rebuild this. You could put the weak point is right here, but you use grease all these. This is a 7/8 greasable bolt. If you use a grease bolt or a wet bolt, okay, then it's going to take a long time for this to wear through. And by the time you get up through this weld, which will help you replace it, you have to replace the bolt anyways. But you're not going to beat your hanger out because this has a square head behind it that holds it in place. So this side's super thick. The other side, there's so much surface area on here, it takes forever to beat those out. But either way, it's not a big deal just to grind this out. That's why I don't weld all the way around. I grind this out, punch it out, put a new one in there. What I did here is I also shifted the center pivot point down so that when the equalizer rocks, it's hitting the mainframe sooner. So I'm limiting the travel of the equalizer on top of pushing the springs down, which is the same as the full subframe, but this is just a replacement part. Now Dexter makes for the double I springs, the 4-inch taller equalizer with the shorter shackles, okay? And that's for double I springs, and that's like the quickest, easiest way to do double I spring. And that works up to 7,000 pound axles, but we still have this issue on the slipper spring axles. So I stopped building these, but now with all this hype about suspensions and stuff that I posted in the last, I said, well, I might as well build it again and show that this is why I preach on my videos that it's all about the principles and the concepts. It's never about like one way is more superior than another way, or this. The whole problem that I'm addressing is axle clearance. You can think whatever you want to think about why equalizers are beneficial, so on and so forth. To me, it's all null and void. To me, this is nothing but a giant cheat. And if you are going to cheat, right, at least cheat it to the point where you get the proper axle clearance. When I put this one in there, which I'll do another video, okay, you can see this is all going to be shimmed down a lot further, and it's going to hit a lot sooner because this pivot point is lower on the equalizer. So this is going to hit a lot sooner. I anticipate, I haven't tested this particular one on this particular trailer yet, but being that I can adjust this, I can move these down. I have to make the plate a little bit longer, but I can move these down a little bit more, a little less. I found this, like I said, I did this so long ago that this was the general average that seemed to work. At the end of the day, your trailer should always be hauled level. And if you're attempting to haul it unlevel, level, then you're amplifying all these problems, because now you're cutting your axle clearance down, so you're still going to bottom out. And to say that you're transferring the load from the front axle to the back axle with an equalizer, to me, is null and void. It doesn't make any sense. So now that we covered axle clearance, and why I tell you it doesn't matter if it's equalizers or the hangers are the problem, and how the hangers are mounted are the problem. All this could be easily taken care of. There's a couple inch difference right here. It would be nothing for the manufacturers to just shim this down 2 inches, with a full tube that goes just past the equalizer distance, shim this down 2 inches, and now you have the axle clearance that's recommended, that we just showed you off of Google, how much travel is in a spring and what you need for the minimum. So now getting back to being critical of different suspensions, okay? We'll start out with the leaf spring setup or the slipper spring setup, but I'm just gonna address things that I think about in using equalizer. So if we look at the energy's coming from the wheel. Okay, you got one bushing here in the front spring, you got a fixed point here, and this is ideally riding level. We've already talked about riding unlevel is not beneficial. It doesn't equalize it. It doesn't do, because you're throwing the geometry off, which means that your springs are not working effectively, your bushings are getting prematurely beat out of it, so on and so forth. So the whole riding unlevel thing, because you're just lazy and you're beating your equipment prematurely. So that's enough of that conversation. The next thing is, let's just look at the energy transfer. You have a bushing here, a flat spot here. There's 2 points that it's hitting. The leaf spring is hitting on the trailer, let's say. Okay, 2 points here. All right, now the energy from both of these axles is coming up to, these are pretty fixed points, right? Both of them are coming in a 1/7/8 bolt. So now a big bushing, these bushings generally speaking are bigger than the bushings that are in the center of these, if there is a bushing in the center of these. If not, a lot of times there's not. Like you see in this stock equalizer, there's no bushing. It's just metal on metal. And that's just the way some of them are. Some of them do have the bushings. Now, is one better than the other? I don't know. Here's why I'm thinking that, is because you have a rubber bushing that's getting multiplied times 2. That's the same rubber bushing that's going into the spring. So they're the same. There may be a little bit difference, but either way, it's still not enough cushion the rubber's not hard enough to compensate for that load. So you're prematurely beating this bushing out of here before you're wearing it out here, or before you're wearing your spring bushings out. So that's already a fail point right there. Now we're talking about the axle clearance it's not right set up to begin with. And if they do set it up right, the equalizer is throwing off your axle clearance. So that doesn't really make any sense either. And then now you have all your alignment issues going on. You can see they put adjustments on the axles here, but as things get wore out, get twisted and things of that nature, especially if you're riding off kilter. Now, if you can see, this is riding level, right? There's a plate in here. When it's riding level, that plate wears evenly. It's a straight plate. If it's not riding level, then it rocks, and then it'll cut through that plate at an angle. This is why these are pointed in here, because it's compensating for it riding unlevel. But either way, this point that you see right here, okay, is gonna get wore out and beat out, and the bushing is gonna get wore out and beat out before you prematurely, by not riding it level. So all you guys that are saying that you like the equalizers make more sense. They were never designed to ride on level. They're just a cheat. This is why I say it's a cheat for not riding your trailer level. There's no reason, I personally believe, that it actually works out better that if you were to mount 2 single axle setups. Because then you know you have a fixed point, you know it's not gonna rock, and you know it's not gonna tilt. So that brings me back to All-Fab. All-Fab spun it around. They made a fixed point here. It kept springs aligned because it's in line with the frame on one piece of channel, and they let the outside float. Now they're still developing something for the slipper springs, but right now it's for double I springs, and that's the realm they're working in. That's the majority of what they are building currently. We'll see how that evolves. But the reason why it makes sense to me is because it's aligning, that one piece is fixed, it's aligning the springs straight, and then your floaters are on the outside. Now people are saying, okay, cool, well up here is the shackle link and it's flopping around. Great. If you have a standard equalizer shackle link on a double I leaf spring, you hit the first axle, it's fixed, But the second axle now has 2 points because now it can rock up here and the shackle's on the front side of the axle on the back axle. So what's the difference in having the shackle on the front side of the back axle or the shackle on the front side of the front axle? I don't know. Just asking questions here. In my mind, all this stuff, this whole Equalizer setup is a giant cheat. All this myth about why it's, better to have it off-road and all this. Let's look at we can look at that. The difference of travel, right? So let's say there's an inch of travel right here. This is a little less than 2.5 inches now. When we rock it, it's just about an inch. It doesn't equate out because of the geometry, so it's not 1 for 1. It's a little bit less. So when this moves 1 inch, this is moving less than 1 inch. So even at full travel in the suspension, you're only gaining another 1 inch of axle travel at the spindle. So how is that beneficial? That makes no sense to me either because it's not that much difference. And if you're talking about going to construction sites or off-road or farmers and all that, you're definitely traveling more than 1 inch across the bump, even in the cornfield. How is that rationale even made any sense? These are all, in my opinion, these are all marketing ploys for us to keep having to deal with this garbage, okay? Nobody's developed an Equalizer yet that fixes this problem for slipper springs. Most manufacturers don't take the extra time to shim these down to get the proper axle clearance. They're not focused on axle clearance. So what is everybody talking about? If you look at the actual physics of it and the geometry of it, you're not making any sense. Right now we can get into a whole bunch of details. If you look on like these, they talk about Chinese axles and how their stuff built. This is all tight down here, this ring. This is a brake flange, okay? It's super tight down here, but then there's a big gap up here. So that's a whole nother story, but I just noticed that as we're talking about it. Nothing on this stuff is everybody's got this vision that all this stuff is perfect from these manufacturers, but when in reality, it's all a train wreck. And here's the crazy thing about this. Something like Texas Pride, Kaufman has the same type of deal. These 9K axles are proprietary to Texas Pride. If Texas Pride doesn't have them in stock, there's only one other place that has them, and that's Trailer Parts Unlimited in Texas. So in order for me to get this axle, that's the only place I could get it from. So now I have to wait. It's not a common off-the-shelf thing that everybody's talking about when you get in there. So now when I run into these problems, I can't run down to the store and just order a tube. They won't sell me just the tube. You can get one from Dexter if you custom order it and wait 6 weeks. You have to buy the whole axle. The whole axle only comes with electric brakes, okay? This is getting flipped to hydraulic brakes. In order for me to get a hydraulic brakes, I have to take the electric brakes, take the axle apart, which I do anyways to check everything, put the hydraulic backing plates on there, put it all back together, right? But either way, the only reason why I have this problem is because originally there's not enough axle clearance. I don't know how many times I need to explain this. My problem with Equalizers and leaf springs is there's not enough axle clearance, okay? So now let's talk about all fab. Okay, with the videos I just posted about one piece bracket and the double Izer mounted fixed points on the ends with the shackle links on the other side. That makes your fixed axle clearance. Now here's a couple other things that we talked about that I noticed, they pointed out to me. You get a lot of problems when you load the equipment onto these dump trailers, okay? The trailer will rock so bad, sometimes it'll pick up the back of the truck, sometimes it'll bend the jacks, all this kind of stuff, because what's happening is as you're driving up on there, the load's transferring and it's just multiplying the problem even worse, which makes it pull up on the trailer or the truck, which makes more pressure on the back and jams that up. The difference in having these fixed, right, is now this pivot point is now back here. So the pressure when you're loading the trailer, and they have another line of trailers that's coming up, Sawdust. It's one of the most beautiful trailers I've ever seen. It's like an art piece, okay? But we'll get to that at another time. We'll be doing a video on that. We're gonna work all that out. Either way, another benefit to having a fixed point, and this is why I say personally, I've been asked multiple times, even before this whole all fab suspension setup, is it more beneficial, or the guys that have a lot of problems and they say they're tired of changing out Equalizers, I'll just put another hanger right here and make these two individual single axle mounts, which gives me a fixed point here. I know what my distance is. I know what my axle clearance is. I put this at 3.5 inches, okay? Then I know if they overload it, you're gonna break a spring before you bend an axle. So I'm saving time and money. It's a lot easier to get springs than it is to get axles. And when you load it, less pressure on the back jacks if you have back jacks, or less pressure picking up on the truck or the ball because my pivot point is further to the back now. Again, basic geometry. I'm not a rocket scientist. I didn't go to college. I don't know any of this stuff. I'm just looking at energy and how things flow. I get all these like comments and all these debates, I guess, if you will, of people talking about why this doesn't work and that doesn't work. Well, what you're getting on these trailers existing doesn't work. You're led to believe that it does, but it doesn't. So I tell everybody the first thing to do when they call me up and they're saying they're having axle problems, measure your axle clearance. And that's all you really need to address. If you go back into all my videos, when I do unique stuff like the equalizers, okay, all my videos, I say, it doesn't matter how you get there. The reason why I built the subframe is so that we can slap these shitty equalizers back on there and just change them out, and it's fast, easily to get a hold of, no problem, okay? Because nobody's building a solution for the problem. Now that there's this hype about suspension stuff, well, hey, I'm gonna get a piece of it too, because this is stuff that I came up with 2008. So, but I switched back because I had customers that were going out of state or moving or whatever, and now they're calling me up and they don't have access. They don't want to pay for the shipping to get more equalizers or whatever else. So I said, okay, cool. For ease of my customers, what I'm gonna do is I either shim down all my hangers, or the center one's the easiest one to do, and then inform them you can't be lazy. If you want to save yourself a bunch of money, stop being lazy and ride your trailer level. And if you have the spacing in here, the 2 inches of spacing in here, then you're gonna have enough axle clearance running down the road, loaded or empty. But now I'm gonna offer this. You want an equalizer to fix this problem. If you just want an interchangeable part, I'll make you a set of these. Now, are they going to be more expensive than these? Yeah, of course. But I can also send you extra pieces of this tubing and this tube, and you could take it to any welder that can grind this out, punch this tube out, put another tube in there, put another solid piece in there. First of all, it's going to take you forever to wear this out. Put another tube in there, put another solid piece in there. The bushing takes an impact on the hole here, so it'll take forever to do this hole. If this hole does get beat out, it's no big deal to cut another 1/4 inch washer, put a longer bolt in it, and start over again. So these equalizers will give you the proper axle clearance that you need. It still doesn't solve the problem of riding the trailer unlevel, but it does solve your axle clearance problem riding at level and when it transitions. So this is the true solution for this. And I'm telling you right now, 9 times out of 10, if everybody gets underneath their trailer and starts looking right above the U-bolts, right above the axle, okay, they're at least touching, okay, if not dented in pretty good. If you have overslung springs, all this stuff's null and void, none of it matters. But the majority of the trailers that are built like this, enclosed trailers, dump trailers, equipment trailers, they're all underslung springs to keep the ride height lower, okay? And this is a problem with all of them, all right? And if you don't believe me, it's not a problem for the guy that has a 10,000 or 20,000 pound capacity dump trailer and only puts in some brush because he uses it at his farm or something and he bought way over what he needed. That's not where you're having this problem, because that's the same guy that probably rides the trailer level. But the problem comes from anybody that uses their capacity of their trailer 50% or more, 50 to 75%. Most of my customers use them 100 to 110%. They're all hitting, and a lot of them are bending axles. And then you're going to the dealerships, you're going to the repair shops, and they're saying, you're overloading it. You're overloading it, you need a new axle. And they sell you 5 sets of axles, and you still keep having the same problem. So now let's touch on why everybody thinks trailers are junk. Kaufman's junk, PJ's junk, Big Tex is junk, the Texas Pride is junk. Here's what I'm finding out. This is one problem. The other thing is you're getting bullshitted by all these repair shops and dealerships and things of this nature, because right off the rip, I've already showed you, and if you get underneath your trailer today and measure this and your axle clearance is under 2 inches with the trailer sitting level on ground empty, you already don't have enough axle clearance, okay? But then when you start using it, it multiplies it. Now you bend axles. Now you take it to the repair shop. They say, oh, you're overloading it. You're overloading it. You take it to the scale. You show them weight slips. They say, oh, no, I'm not overloading. And they say, well, that's the only way you're bending axles if you're overloading it. It's not, okay? Your axle clearance is the problem. So now you go through this a whole bunch of time. This isn't cheap. I know because I had to order this. There's only one place to get this from. I had to order it. It's expensive, okay? You do that a couple times, right? You have an equalizer. I should be able to transfer the load. I should be able to ride my trailer on level. All this nonsense, right? Then you get financially so deep into it that now Texas Pride is junk. Big Tex is junk. PJ is junk. They're all junk, but really you're not looking at the root of the problem. Now, is there situations where there are bad welds and so on and so forth? Of course there are. You're going to get that. Generally speaking, though, the majority of the time, the people that are saying that any particular trailer's junk, they got it underrated for what they are, they're abusing it, and then they're getting bullshitted by the repair shops or by the dealership and saying that they're misusing the trailer. And when you have a weight slip that says that you're not misusing the trailer and your trailer's still failing, now you think that the trailer's junk. But it's not junk. It's the uses that's junk, and it's the lack of knowledge on things like axle clearance. Rumors or these ideologies that equalizers are compensating, that makes it okay to ride the trailer out of level. Show me any place where it says that your trailer is designed to be ridden out of level unless this whole undercarriage is shifted. Okay, now if you look overseas in like Thailand or something, you'll see they make those trailers. I don't know why they do it. I don't know if it's just for fun or for show, but you'll see the whole undercarriage is rocked and the trailer's all like one way or the other way. But that's the way the undercarriage is, right? Any undercarriage that's straight, if it's all designed to be riding level. There's nothing that will compensate for laziness and not putting your trailer level. All that is null and void. I've proven that if you throw off the geometry of this, it prematurely wears every component in the system. So don't tell me that that's the way it's designed to be. Show me in writing, show me someplace where Dexter, Lipper, any of your favorite Rockwell, any of them, show me where it says on any tandem axle or triple axle setup or any trailer situation where you should ride it on level. It makes no sense. And it doesn't matter if it's torsion axles, spring axles, air ride, it doesn't matter. They're all designed to be ride level. If you're not riding level, you're prematurely wearing your parts, you're cutting your axle clearance down, and it's not correct. It's not right. So it's a null and void argument. I listen to the stuff. I look at the comments, and I just think it's not even worth my time to reply. I don't understand. So that's my today's rant. I showed you on Google the axle clearances. I've showed you now multiple ways to fix this problem. Hangers can get shifted down. All of them can be shifted down. You can get away most of the time with just shifting the center down, as long as you're riding your trailer level. And now I'm bringing this back, okay? So if you don't have any skills, if you have a rental company or something of that nature, I'm gonna build a hanger that you can put, it's a bolt-on hanger, just like you bolt these on, and it's gonna take care of this ride height problem. What it also does by giving you the proper axle clearance or an excess amount of axle clearance is what will happen is when you do overload the trailer, it's a cut and dry, clear, this is the fact that you overloaded it. The spring is designed to be the weakest point. The spring will break. The spring fails, it's a very loud noise. It's a big warning, and 9 times out of 10, people stop. And all that happens is the spring will break, this will come up, and it'll hit the frame, and they stop. I've never seen it where they broke a spring and bent the axle. Unless they hit something as soon as it broke the spring or there's a combination of problems. But 9 times out of 10, I've had it where it broken the spring, slowed down, even limped it to me, loaded, and the axle was still fine. So what's the cost savings in that? That's just from having proper axle clearance and allowing weakest link to be the fail point. But I 100% assure you that these will go way past what you think they will, given the proper axle clearance. And as we saw in Google, right, I'll show you one more time. Compressed is a 1.5 inches, okay? Full travel's 3 to 4 inches. 3 to 4 inches. How the hell am I supposed to allow this spring travel to 3 to 4 inches when there's only 2 inches here? Even when the Equalizer rocks, I only have 3 inches at most. And there's no load on the trailer. There's no load. Okay, so now after going through all that, the next step that I'm gonna do is I've already showed you how these are rebuildable, how I can change everything out, how anybody with some basic welding skills can change this out, rebuild this Equalizer, and how it gives you the proper geometry and axle clearance. Axle clearance is the biggest thing. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna install these, and I'm gonna cycle it the same way, and I'm gonna show you the difference on what just little changes that I've made. That now, if you have a different application, you have different hangers, you're having a different problem, I can alter these, okay? But at the end of the day, the point is your axle clearance is your most important thing, and riding your trailer level is the next most important thing. So I always tell everybody, I tell all my customers, there's 3 most important things when hauling a trailer, any trailer, okay? Lug nuts, tire pressure, and ride it level, especially loaded. Ride it level loaded. Now, a lot of these trailers, these equipment trailers, these hotshot trailers, the guys don't want to spend money on adjustable hitches. They don't want to take the time to adjust it. Fine. Look at the axle travel in your tow vehicle and compensate for that, right? If you know when you load, a lot of times when you load, you're all the way down, you're hitting the bump stops, and whatever that distance is, figure that out. That's the difference in your hitch height. So empty, you might ride 2 or 3 inches high because there's not that much more travel in most trucks. So empty, you might ride 2 or 3 inches high, which is not a big deal because the weight of the unit itself is usually the weight of one axle or less. So you're not gonna hurt it in that sense. It's talking about when you're loaded. So when you're loaded, figure out the travel in the bump stops on the truck and go 3/4 of that or that full distance, ride it that much higher in the front. And now when you load, you know that you're gonna end up pretty close. That's how you can cheat it and still be lazy. That's it.